Now, today, as the world observes Human Rights Day, Namibia reflects that is on the progress we've made and the challenges that remain. Now, joining us is renowned human rights lawyer Norman Tjombe, whose work has shaped national conversations in justice, equality, and constitutional freedom. Now, he helps us to unpack the state of human rights in Namibia and what more needs to be done to protect every citizen. Good evening and welcome to Daily Roundup.
Good evening and thank you for inviting me.
All right, just to start off, Namibia has one of the world's most progressive constitutions. In your view as a human rights lawyer, where are we still falling short in fully realizing the rights it promises?
Yes, it's quite right. Namibia is quite an admirable constitution, and also our national laws and policies are quite up to standard compared to first world countries. What we lack in terms of implementing those rights that are in those instruments is the political will. It's making sure that we have drastic changes to people's lives. If one just looks at the unmitigated disaster that we have, that we call housing in this country, our education system is completely collapsed. And if you look at our health systems, facilities are terrible. People don't have access to proper health care facilities. And those are issues that are affecting human rights quite negatively. And, you know, we have a country where the overwhelming majority of people are poor, who cannot purchase their rights. And therefore, it has to be provided for by government. Government has to provide the sort of platform where people would then be able to access these rights. And poverty is an assault on human rights.
Of course.
Every poor person endures a human rights violation on a continuous basis every day for the rest of their lives.
Of course. Now, human rights, they often highlight that is the vulnerable groups, just like you mentioned, when it comes to poverty and violating the rights of those that are going through that. Which communities in Namibia remain the most at risk, and what immediate policy or legal interventions are needed to protect them?
Well, poor people are extremely at risk of their human rights being violated. From education, housing, food, just generally their dignity is being violated. And amongst those poor people, you would then see, for instance, gender-based violence, the sort of brutality that are meted out to women and children is just exceptionally terrible in this country. And we can all ascribe that to various things. But I mean, if there's poverty, you would have the sort of things that a woman would not be able to access lawyers to protect herself because she can't afford lawyers. You know, we don't have police stations in every community or every neighborhood. So you'd have a situation where women who would be brutalized would not be able to access those services because they are far. But we also have this sort of terrible situations where people have gone to police stations. I mean, we just had 2 murders in the last 2 weeks or so, where the victims have gone to the police, sought protection from the police, and the police were unable to provide it either on their vehicles or that sort of thing. And the women were killed by their lovers. So the brutality that has been meted out to women and the girl child in this country is just exceptionally terrible in this country. And we need to have a conversation around that, because those are probably the most vulnerable people in this country.
Mr. Tjombe, access to justice remains a major barrier for many Namibians. Now, what practical steps should government and the legal sector take, that is just to ensure that the ordinary citizens can claim and defend their rights without fear or financial burden?
Yes. You see, the government has a department in the Ministry of Justice called the Directorate of Legal Aid, where they do provide lawyers to those who are unable to provide lawyers. But they're terribly underfunded. So as a result, not everyone who has the need to have a lawyer and who can't afford a lawyer are unable to, you know, would be able to be serviced by them. So the system is just not working. And that comes down to what I've said earlier, that we must have the political will to resolve these issues. The Constitution wasn't a small little speed bump in the way of progress. It was a massive U-turn from what we were to what we should be. So we need to have that political will to resolve these issues. But also the private sector, the private lawyers, must come forward to provide pro bono services. At the moment, there's only one institution, the Legal Assistance Center, that provides free legal assistance to people. And just being one out of, potentially about 3 million people to provide, it's simply just not achievable and it's not sustainable. So we need to, as an organized profession, come together to make sure that we also bring our bit to make sure that people in this country do have access to legal services in order to protect their rights.
Of course. Now, from a legal perspective, what has been the most concerning human rights trend in Namibia over the past year and why?
Consistently for many years, gender-based violence has been the most concerning issue when it concerns human rights in this country. In Namibia, we kill just about 3 women a week, and those are from people who they know. It's either their husbands, boyfriends, or neighbors,
That's concerning.
and that's extremely concerning in this country. Namibia is considered the most peaceful country in Africa. But I mean, if you're a woman, that obviously sounds very hollow. It's not the reality, because at any time you could be harmed and be killed by someone that you consider to love,
Now, if you had the power to prioritize that is human rights reform in Namibia for next year, 2026, what will it be and what impact will it have?
If I have the power to do that, I would increase the budget to make it much more poor-pro, that poor people benefit mostly, that we ensure that every poor person has a roof over their head, has proper education, has access to health, and then also just to ensure that the governmental services like social workers and the police and that sort of thing are up to standard. They are properly funded to be able to provide these sort of services that would ultimately protect people. We can't have women going to police stations and be turned away and said, well, it's a domestic affair. Please go and talk to your husband or your boyfriend. To try and resolve it, and then the next day the person is dead, and then suddenly the police are there with 5-6 vehicles which they didn't have the day before.
Mr. Tjombe, you have been an advocate, you've been in the law field, you have advocated for a lot of people, you have done community work in your industry. Perhaps just what are your biggest takeaways?
Well, Namibia is absolutely a wonderful country, no doubt about it. I mean, if you look at the neighborhood of other countries in the neighborhood, we're certainly doing far well. But I'm always ashamed when we talk about gender-based violence and the treatment, for instance, that we have to minorities like the San people and the Himba people. It's quite ashamed to do that. And if we can really just fix those sort of things, this country can be a shining example of what a country is that has a caring society.
Will you say perhaps it's a state of emergency in terms of gender-based violence?
Oh no, absolutely. It has been a state of emergency for many years, and it has to be declared as such formally.
Okay. Thank you so much for being on Daily Roundup and giving us that update.
It's the most pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
That was Mr. Norman Tjombe. He's a renowned human rights lawyer, just unpacking that is the human rights in Namibia, and also just giving us a brief on the urgency that comes with GBV and the issues that women are facing.